Alright, let's dive into something that's been making headlines recently: drones popping up in unexpected places across Europe, specifically Bulgaria and Germany. Now, on the surface, this might sound like just another tech gone wrong story, but personally, I think there's a lot more going on here. What makes this really interesting is the timing and the locations. We're talking about drones appearing near critical infrastructure like gas pipelines and military bases, right as tensions between Russia and NATO are already at a boiling point. This raises a deeper question: are these incidents random, or is there a calculated strategy behind them? Let's start with Bulgaria. A drone exploded near the Transbalkan gas pipeline, which, if you take a step back and think about it, is a pretty strategic target. Gas pipelines are the lifelines of energy supply, especially in Europe. What this really suggests is that someone might be testing the waters, seeing how vulnerable these critical points are. Now, Bulgaria's defense ministry initially said the drone was likely a Ukrainian Maya decoy drone, but Ukraine quickly denied any intentional involvement. Here's where it gets tricky. Even if it wasn't intentional, the fact that these drones are flying into NATO territory is a huge red flag. It's like someone's probing the defenses, and that's something NATO can't ignore. What many people don't realize is that these incidents aren't happening in a vacuum. They're part of a larger pattern. Just last month, Romania shot down a suspected Russian drone in its airspace, and now we've got drones near military bases in Germany. One of those bases in Mechanic, by the way, is a high-security site with underground storage for military equipment. If you ask me, that's not a coincidence. It feels like someone's sending a message, or maybe even laying the groundwork for something bigger. From my perspective, the most concerning part is how these incidents are blurring the lines between Russia's war in Ukraine and NATO's involvement. NATO's been walking a tightrope, trying to support Ukraine without getting directly dragged into the conflict. But these drone sightings are forcing the alliance to confront a new reality: the war might already be spilling over into their backyard. NATO chief Mark Rutte called Moscow's behavior reckless, and the US ambassador to NATO promised to defend every inch of alliance territory. Strong words, but what does that actually mean in practice? Here's where it gets even more complicated. Russia, of course, denies any involvement. They called the drone discovery in Leipzig a fabricated provocation. But let's be real, Russia's track record with denials isn't exactly spotless. Whether or not they're directly behind these incidents, the effect is the same: NATO's on edge, and Europe's security architecture is being tested. What this really boils down to is a game of escalation. Drones might seem like small potatoes compared to missiles or tanks, but they're a low-cost, high-impact tool for sending a message. Personally, I think we are seeing the early stages of a new kind of hybrid warfare, one that exploits gray zones and tests alliances without crossing the threshold of full-scale conflict. It's a dangerous game, and if it keeps escalating, we could be looking at a major crisis. So, where does this leave us? In my opinion, NATO needs to get serious about drone defense, fast. These incidents have exposed a critical vulnerability, and if they don't address it, we could see more of these probes turning into something far worse. But beyond that, this is a wake-up call for Europe as a whole. The war in Ukraine isn't just Ukraine's problem anymore, it's knocking on NATO's door. As I wrap this up, I'm left with one big question: how far is Russia willing to push, and how far is NATO willing to go to push back? These drone incidents might seem like isolated events, but they're part of a much bigger chess game. And right now, it feels like we are just seeing the opening moves. What do you think? Are these incidents a sign of things to come, or just a series of coincidences? Let me know in the comments below.